Welcome everyone to another episode of Cultured Cooking. My name is Jacobson Valentine. I'm the founder of Feed the Mass, a local food revolution organization here in Portland, Oregon. I've been in the restaurant industry for 13 years and teaching for the last 5. It is my passion to inspire people to care about what they cook and what they eat. Food is one of the most obvious ways we experience culture and influences every day. Here on Culture Cooking, we go to the root of where food comes from and teach you how to cook popular dishes from different cultures. We do it with ease and happiness because when it's easy and you enjoy it, you're more likely to do it. While we cook together tonight, we're going to introduce you to the Ambassador Program, part of the Feed the Mass family. The Ambassador Program delivers healthy, chef-prepared meals 3 days a week to households across the Portland metro area. We're excited to have Chloe Spencer, who oversees the program, joining us this evening. Chloe, why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about the Ambassador Program and the work you do.
Hi, I'm Chloe, the Ambassador Coordinator, and the Ambassador Program provides home deliveries to households throughout the city of Portland that live within 8 miles of the kitchen. We produce about 1,500 meals and have 17 different routes. In Multnomah County, 34% of residents do not make enough income to meet their basic needs, such as groceries, childcare, bills, or other miscellaneous necessities. As a result of COVID-19, roughly 25% of Oregon residents are now considered food insecure. 67% of our meal recipients receive at least 2 meals each delivery week. And then 48% of our meals are delivered to the southeast quadrant.
We'll be monitoring the chat box, so please share your thoughts and questions. We'll be addressing them as we go along. Tonight, we're going to India. This country has got a lot. Centuries of history, art, and cultures colliding in the latest technology, and of course, so many people. Some of the most loved food in the world comes from there. India is so diverse that there are over 20 official languages, and with each language, there's a different cuisine. We're going to make the most popular dish at any Indian restaurant, butter chicken. While India's influences goes back centuries, this dish is fairly young, originating in the northern part of the country in the late 1940s. How butter chicken came to be is almost as interesting as the dish itself. In fact, 2 families each claim that they created the dish. We know that Kund Lal Gujral and Kund Lal Jagi worked together in the Moti Mahal, a restaurant in Peshawar, now Pakistan. Gujral experimented with cooking yogurt marinated chicken in clay ovens known as tandoors, originally used for baking bread and thus creating tandoori chicken. When war broke out in the region in 1947, the 2 migrated to India's capital, Delhi, where they opened the roadside restaurant by the same name, Moti Mahal. To avoid wasting unsold food, they mixed leftover marinade juices with butter and tomato, then stewed them leftover chicken to moisten it so it can be sold the next day. These culinary experiments led to tonight's dish, creamy, beautiful, spicy butter chicken. Today, there are more than 150 Moti Mahal franchises across India, Russia, New Zealand, Saudi Arabia, Tanzania, and even in the States, including Seattle, Kansas City, and New York City. The dish is so popular that you can also find butter chicken tacos, pizzas, rolls, burgers, and biryani. Let's start the process of marinating our chicken. We're gonna prepare enough servings for 4. All right, so first ingredient we're going to need is to make our actual marinade. So we have Greek yogurt, we have turmeric, Garam Masala, cumin, and lemon juice, and salt. First thing we're gonna do, we're gonna take a big tablespoon of salt and throw it into our yogurt. We're gonna need also a whisk, so don't forget that. Handy dandy mini whisk, can't go wrong. All right, next, we're gonna need our cumin powder. Beautiful. We're gonna need our Garam Masala, our turmeric, and lemon juice. So we're gonna mix that in, get in there, smash it in there. Our marinade is good. We're gonna get a spoon. Perfect. And we're gonna taste it. Now, it's not gonna, we're looking for just enough salt in here to taste good. If we need more salt, we're gonna add some more salt. Perfect. marinade is done. This is the fun part, y'all. We're breaking out the proteins. So the first thing we're gonna need is, of course, a plastic cutting board. Never use a wooden cutting board when it comes to protein. So we're gonna switch it out. Get our plastic cutting board, perfect. Wooden cutting boards are actually still kind of living things because they absorb bacteria, they absorb juices. So when we're using meats like salmonella, we don't want them absorbing meat juices because then it will start to rot, and that's not what we want. So when we're going with this, try going with plastic for meats, and vegetables you can do on a wooden cutting board. All right, so we're gonna take our chicken. Now, I'm using all chicken thighs. Some of you might be using all different parts of the chicken, whatever chicken you want, but we're gonna cut it down to bite-sized pieces. So if you have skin, understand this. You're gonna be putting a lot of butter in this dish, and if you keep the skin, there's a lot of fat in there. So if you wanna make this a little bit healthier, not a lot healthier, but a little bit healthier, take away the skin. So we're gonna go and take our skin, and we're literally just gonna kind of rip it off. Get in there, get your fingers in there. All right, so with the drumsticks, you most likely won't have to do anything. Just make sure the skin's off, and we're just gonna sear them up. That's totally fine. Because they're small enough and they're mostly bone, so I don't think we have to chop those up. But when you have chicken thighs, these are huge chicken thighs, we're gonna cut these down into bite-sized pieces. We're just gonna cut right next to the bone. All right, and then with the piece that has the bone, we're gonna cut right to the bone, put the heel of the knife right down, and we're gonna push down until it goes right through the bone. Nice and simple. We're gonna cut these right in half, and we're gonna go through. So if you have chicken breasts, you're gonna hold the chicken down, you're gonna cut into strips and cut into dices. That works too. Now, understand this, if you do not want to keep the bones, because some people have a problem with bones, just cut the bone out. Super easy. All right. So if you want to cut the bone out, I'm gonna show you how to do that real quick. So we're gonna take off the skin. Now, do not throw away your skins. So one thing I like to do with these is get an oven on, bring it up to 450 degrees, lay it onto a sheet pan, and actually bake these, and you turn them into like chicken skin chips, and they're delicious. So if you wanna try that out, it's a really good opportunity to do that. All right, so to take out the bone, what we're gonna do is take our knife, we're gonna run right next to the bone, just like that. We're gonna do the other side as well, right next to the bone. And then we're gonna lay the bone out and cut through the back. So you can save the bones, you can use it for chicken stock, anything you want. But I would say, I like the flavor and the extra, amazingness to like grab a piece of bone out. I don't know, it's just one of those things. I like chicken wings, so it's like the closest thing you got to chicken wings. All right, so we got our piece of chicken. Beautiful. All right, so we are done chopping up your chicken. Again, guys, we're using a knife. Take your time. You don't have to rush through this part, all right? I want you guys to keep all your fingers intact. We're going to take our chicken, put it into our bowl. We're going to take our marinade, and this is where the fun part gets. We're going to get our hands involved. So, marinate into the chicken. Get involved in this. This is super important. Get in there. All right, so you're gonna have marinated fingers. It's all right. All right, so now that our chicken is marinated, you can marinate this up to 30 minutes as quickly as you can, or you can also last for a day. All right, now it's time to sanitize our area. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna wash our hands really good. Make sure you're using soap water to wash our area. Make sure you wash your cutting board and your knives really good in hot soapy water. If you have bleach water or any kind of countertop cleaner, make sure you are cleaning those up. Tonight, we're also preparing naan, India's most famous flatbread, because who doesn't like fluffy bread you can make yourself? Naan also originated by virtue of an experiment after the arrival of yeast in India from Egypt around 2,500 years ago. All right, so this is one of my favorite things. It's super easy, and you can whip it up pretty quickly. While we're doing this, again, make sure you have all of your stuff pre-measured. If you're still measuring things out, no problem. Just take some notes. We're going to get through this the entire way. All right? So, first thing we're going to talk about is our yeast. So, as you see right here, this is actually our yeast because we included the water, the sugar, and the yeast. It's kind of bloomed up because it's been sitting for a little bit. But right now, we're going to be adding in our sugar, water, and yeast into the little container. There is a big difference between yeast. Some yeasts do take a few minutes. Some yeasts react really quickly. So just make sure that when we're doing this, understand the directions of the yeast itself, and the packet really does tell you how to make your yeast. First thing we're going to do, we're going to add in, after we get our yeast going, we're going to be adding in our dry ingredients together. So first, get our salt. We have our baking soda, and we're going to go with our chopstick. Or if you want to use a fork, either one, but I'm using a chopstick, and we're going to mix them all together. Now, the reason why we mix all of our dry ingredients together first is because we want to make sure that the salt and the baking soda goes all the way through the entire the recipe or the dry ingredients, and you don't have clumps of salt or clumps of baking soda because they're both salty and they're not going to be good. All right. Next, we have one more dry ingredient we're going to be adding into this. And that dry ingredient is going to be our garlic. Now, this dish has a lot of garlic. We're going to have 5 cloves of garlic. We're going to take something flat. We're going to put it underneath that flat thing, cutting board. We're going to use a sheet pan for this. And we're going to push down until you hear it pop. Just like that. All right? And then it should be nice and easy. You're just going to kind of peel off the husk of the garlic. Now, a little quick thing about garlic. I know your fingers are going to hate you in a little bit because you're touching all this garlic. If you want to get rid of the smell of garlic, a really cool little trick is actually wash your hands with a little bit of mustard and then rinse them and then wash with some soap one more time and get it in there. All right, so we're going to next grab our box grater. From here, we're going to take the smallest side. So we got our little small sides, and we're going to grate our garlic right in there. All right, we're going to go through all of them. Just grate them, being very careful because our box grater is sharp and we don't want to cut ourselves. All right, so garlic. Now these little big chunky pieces, kind of put them to the side unless you really want that like boom garlic flavor in your mouth. We're going to tap our grater to get any extra pieces. Get in there if you can. All right, and then we have our garlic. We're going to throw that into our dry ingredients. Now, this part is super important. We're going to get them kind of coat all of our garlic into our mixture. We want to make sure this garlic kind of goes throughout the entire dough. So we're going to bring it in with the dry ingredients. If you see any clumps, you kind of go with your fingers and break them up. This is why we do this before we add in our liquid. If we were to throw this in with the liquids, you're going to have giant clumps of garlic in there. So this gives you the opportunity to separate those clumps of garlic. All of our garlic is dispersed really well. All right, so what ingredients? We have our milk. We have our butter. We're going to add that in there. We have our olive oil. And we have our yogurt. Now, the reason why we put our yogurt in here is we kind of want to thin out our yogurt so it mixes well. So get all that yogurt in there. If you need to use your finger, get your finger in there if you need to. Just get all that yogurt. We don't waste yogurt in here. All right. So all that good to go. And then, of course, we have our yeast mixture. Add in there. Oh, it's nice and fluffy. It's good. It's nice and activated. And we're going to mix it all together into the wet concoction. All right. After our wet and dry ingredients come together, we're going to mix them all together. Beautiful. And just go with your fork or your chopstick. And you can kind of see that the wet and dry ingredients are kind of coming off the sides. This is what we're looking for. All right. So when everything starts to come together and it's all looking kind of homogeneous, all the same look, texture, and everything like that, it's time to start the kneading. We're gonna dust our surface. All right, so we have our dough. We're gonna clean off those sides of the bowl. Get it all clean, get it all clean. There we go. Beautiful. And then it's time to start kneading. So it's a very simple process. We pat it all down and we fold. Pat, fold, pat, fold. I know it's gonna look crumbly right now. Don't worry, it's gonna come together. Pat and fold. Get everything from the outside, pat and fold. There we go. Now it's coming together. And then once it gets to a really long hot dog, we're gonna bring it back into a hamburger and fold. Press, fold. Get all these little stragglers, get them right in the middle. Push them in. No dough left behind. The dough is almost there, so we're gonna really put some force into it. This is super important, some energy. So push down, fold. Push down, fold. Push down, fold. And now we're kneading. We're building gluten. Squish, fold, squish. Now again, got little stragglers, pick them up. No kids left in the pool. Put in some force in this. We want it to come together. Once it comes together and the dough is come together and it's kind of the same wetness, stickiness, no dry spots, we're ready to go. So this actually looks pretty good. It looks kind of like a brain. Don't worry. We're gonna let this rest for about 15 to 30 minutes. By the time we get done cooking all of our curry, it's gonna be ready to go. I'm gonna grab my plastic wrap, and it's time to wrap these bad boys. And again, set a timer for at least 15 minutes to see it kind of, rest, and then we're gonna roll this out. Let's get into onions. All right, guys, so we have our red onions. So one thing about onions, in India itself, red onions are the only onions you can really find. There's no white onions. There are shallots, but when it comes to onions, you're gonna either get shallots or red onions. So if you have a white onion, it's totally fine. It is totally, in a pinch it works. But if you're going for the more authentic feel and more like traditional, red onions are gonna be like your choice when it comes to Indian food. So first thing we're gonna do before we get into anything is we're gonna talk about how do you hold your knife. So for those of you who are beginners, I want you guys to see that when it comes to holding your knife, it does make a difference of where you hold it. So we're gonna talk about all the parts of a knife. So we have the blade, we have the cutting edge, we have the spine, we have the handle, and this point where the blade and the handle come together, this is called the bolster. So what I want you guys to do, and if it's your first time, we're gonna pinch it, and we're gonna lay the blade on this third knuckle line. And then with the rest of your fingers, hold it. I know it's gonna feel a little weird. It's all right. We're gonna try something new. If it doesn't work for you, you can go back to the way you're doing it. So with this, we're going to put the tip of the knife down on the cutting board, and we're always gonna cut from tip to butt of the blade. So whenever we cut anything, it's going to be tip to butt. Tip to butt. We're always gonna cut into the cutting board. Super important, cut into the cutting board. So we're going to talk about this hand. This is going to be your guide. So this is super important. So with this, we're going to put our fingertips down and we're going to curl our fingertips in. So that's going to protrude your knuckles into outward and protect our fingertips. Now with our blade, they're going to work together as a pair. So we're going to cut fingertips in, knuckles pointed out, blade of the knife right next to your knuckles, all right? So with this, we're gonna go push forward all the way through. And you can see with fingertips, our fingertips are well about close to half an inch away from the blade, so we don't have to worry about them cutting. So let's talk about holding things. So when we're doing this, the first thing we're gonna do with the onion is cut the top off. So with everything, all the peels on, you don't have to peel anything, we're just gonna cut the top off. Nice and gentle, beautiful. All this stuff goes in the compost. The top of the onion pointing straight down into the cutting board. We're gonna do one cut right in half. Nice and simple. Now from there, we're gonna do a peeling. So any extra husk of the onion, we're just gonna peel that paper part off. All right, so we have the papery part taken off on both onions. Now, one of the best tricks we can do with dicing our onions is keeping it as whole as possible until the end. And I'm gonna show you what I mean. So, we're gonna take our onion, we're gonna measure on this side of the onion. Now, this is super important because if any part of our finger is on this side of the blade, it comes off, and it's kind of the rule of the blade. So, we're gonna look, make sure no part of our finger is on that side, and we're gonna go in and pull out. Now you notice it's still attached. We're gonna leave a little bit of the onion still attached. So again, go in and pull out. Go in and pull out. And we're trying to make sure that they're nice and even. Take your time. All right. Now, if you do this right, it should all stay together, relatively together. Perfect. We're gonna do one more time so everybody can see. So, tip of the onion in and out. In and out. The dicing part. So all we're gonna do is pinch the sides a little bit with your pinky and your thumb so it stays together. Knuckle out, and we're gonna cut all the way through. So remember, tip to butt. So tip to butt, tip to butt, tip to butt. Use the blade. Now, once you get to the end, as you kind of see right here, we're going to do a couple chops around. We don't waste any part of the onion. So we have this little nub, which is the root. We can throw that away. Grab your container, and all we're gonna do is scoop it off the counter into your little container. Super easy. All right, we're gonna go back. We're gonna get the other half. All right, and again, bring your cutting board back, bring your container to the edge, and there you go. So we have our onions. Now, one of the big things, I'm gonna keep this as far away from you as possible because I don't wanna accidentally cry. So keep it in the fridge if you want to, or put it far away from you as you can so you're not inhaling all those, the smells of the onions and starting to make you cry. Now I'm gonna teach you a really awesome method. It is called the plank, stick, and dice method. And you'll see why. Now, we know a tomato is round. It's roly-poly-oly. It's sometimes can be very dangerous when you're sitting there like, So, how to make it more stable? We're gonna cut a little piece right off the bottom of the tomato, lay it down. Now it doesn't roll. It stays stable. That's the key. So, from here, we're gonna cut planks off to make our dices. So, plank, plank, plank. And again, you want them relatively the same size as the onions. So we have all these little planks. You take 2 or 3 of those planks, put them together, and we're gonna turn them into sticks. Again, the same size as the onions. All right, so we got our sticks into dices. It's safer, it's easier, it's more even. I like doing this method. When I had to do like hundreds of pounds of tomatoes for events for catering, this was my best friend. Yeah, and they all had to be the same, so this is a good way to create consistency. All right, again, tomatoes, bring cutting board to the edge, grab our container. All right, we got one more tomato, y'all. Let's do it. So again, we're gonna do the fast motion side. So, bottom cut off, cut into planks. Now we're gonna turn into sticks. Pile them up. And then we're gonna turn them into dices. All right. So we have our tomatoes chopped up along with our onions. Beautiful. I'm gonna give this a quick wipe down because the juices of the tomato, we don't want things to slip around. So just give it a quick wipe. Next thing we're gonna get into is going to be our ginger and garlic. Take our cutting board, garlic down. Give it a quick tap, tap, tap-a-roo, all right? Then it should just literally come out the skin. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. All right, we're gonna cut off the hard part at the end because we don't want that in there. And we're gonna cut it lengthwise into, again, we're gonna turn these into planks, then into sticks, and then into mince. So, fine motor skills, cut them into planks. Got our little planks of garlic, and then cut them into sticks. And you want them as small as you can, so take your time. This fine motor skills right here. Our little sticks of garlic all piled up. And then we're going to cut it into mince. All right. And then one more time all the way through, tip our knife down, hand flat on top, and we're just going to chop it through. Make sure it's nice and even. Cutting board to the edge and pop it into your little container. Let's talk a little bit about ginger. So ginger, what we're going to do is we need about 1 inch of ginger. So inch by inch. So we're going to take our ginger, we're going to cut 1 inch of ginger off. Now, we save these. We don't throw these away. So all these we're going to do is put this in a Ziploc bag, throw it into your freezer, and anytime you need ginger for a marinade or something like that, we get our ginger and we put it into our marinade. So an easy way to actually peel ginger is I actually like to cut around it. So take our little ginger, cut, turn it on the plank, cut, turn it on the plank, cut, turn it on the plank, cut. All right? And again, we're going to take our ginger, we're going to save it, use it for marinades. And then all these little parts, we're just going to kind of cut it off. All right, so with this, we're going to get our box grater. Now, we have our box grater that we use for garlic, but I'm going to show you another tool that you might want to add into your arsenal. That is our zester. Now, the cool thing about the zester, it actually kind of purees a little bit whatever you put through it. So if it's a soft thing like garlic or ginger, you're gonna have a puree. So I'm gonna show you how this works. We're gonna use the entire length of the zester just like you would use a grater. I'm gonna use all of it. We're gonna be careful when it gets to the end because it will cut you. Super important. But if you're looking for getting a lot of flavor out of it and you don't want chunks of ginger, this is an amazing tool to have. So again, be careful at the end. Take your little nub, throw it into your little Ziploc bag. All right, so and you see all this puree ginger. We're gonna put that in with our garlic. Beautiful. All right, so cilantro. It is an amazing herb. We're gonna take our cilantro and we're going to just give it one quick chop right at the top. Now this is the hard stem, and then we have the soft stem that is more in with the leaves. Now with this, we're gonna kind of take all the hard stems and pull them out. So if you see any here, anything that isn't soft, that if you were to chew on it, you're like, ah, gosh, I don't want that, take it out. So just a quick going through over cilantro. Now, if you find any cilantro that is super slimy, throw that out. I mean, I don't think I have to tell you that, but I'm gonna tell you that again, throw it out. So once you get about a cup of cilantro, again, you can rewrap these into a paper towel and you can throw them back into your fridge. Last but not least, this can be very painful for those, and this is why we do it last, the jalapeno. Now, why do we do the jalapeno last? The main reason is if you're chopping a bunch of jalapenos and then you have to do other things and for some reason you touch your face or you touch your eye and it starts to burn, it can be very, very, I would say, hard to continue to cook in a timely manner. So I like to do a jalapeno last because as soon as I get done, I go wash my hands and I don't have to stress too much about like accidentally touching my face. So super important we do these last. All right, so we're gonna take the butt of our jalapeno off. All right, and then what we're gonna do is we're going to make a tunnel with our fingers. So we're gonna do the OK method. So we see the OK in our fingers like this. We're gonna open them up and we're gonna pinch the size of the jalapeno. Now, super important, why do we do the OK? Now, when I put a knife into in our fingers, I can't see where my fingers are if they're like this. So I do the OK method to make sure my fingers don't accidentally get caught in the blade while I'm cutting things in there. So super important. So make the OK. We're going to cut this in half lengthwise. just like that. Boom. That's a great trick. Then we're gonna do one more time and 2/4. Perfect. So now we gotta take out this middle part. Now, if you wanna keep it spicy, keep the middle part in, but I'm gonna take it out because we have the serrano coming right behind it. So, we're going to take our knife. Now this is super important. We're gonna go halfway in. All right. We're gonna push on the other side, and we're gonna keep kind of wiggling out to take out the middle. So we got the white part out, keep the flesh in. Do that one more time. Lay the knife down, give it a wiggle halfway, grab the back, and wiggle all the way through. All right, so with our jalapeno, we're gonna do the same thing. We have our planks automatically. Now we're gonna turn them into sticks. All right, so we have our sticks. Now it's gonna be dices. Nice and small. Bring it to the edge. And this will be another garnish we're gonna be using. So what we're gonna do is, the only thing we're gonna do with our lemon is we're gonna cut this in half. And put it to the side. It is time to start cooking. So let's get our pans, so either a Dutch oven or a large pan. We're gonna turn our stoves onto medium to medium-high heat, depending on your stove. Making the curry. The first part is, of course, toasting the spices. Now, did you know that around 70% of the world's spices actually comes from India? Some of the best known spices include turmeric, cumin, saffron, and chili powder. We're going to have our pan, make sure it's nice and warm. We're gonna add in our spices. So we have our cumin seeds and our cinnamon sticks. We're gonna get that ready, and we're gonna measure this out. So this is, I think in this one, it's about a 1.5 tablespoons of cumin and 1 cinnamon stick. We're gonna add these in. All right, now super important. If you add it in and it starts to smoke, immediately take it out and throw it into a dish or a pan. Have a pan ready. So while this is happening, we're going to use a spoon or your tongs and keep it moving. Don't let it sit because it will burn. All right, so once it starts being fragrant, give it a smell. That's what we're talking about. We're gonna throw this into a pan. Next, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add in our oil. So this is about 2 tablespoons of oil right in. All right, we're gonna get our handy dandy tongs, and we're gonna take our chicken out of the marinade. Don't worry if there's a little bit of marinade on it, and we're gonna kind of roast them out. If you hear the sizzle, we're good. If you don't hear the sizzle, take it out. Wait till you hear the sizzle. We're gonna do 2 batches. If you have a big enough pan, you can do it all at once, that's great, but you wanna probably make sure there's enough room for it to sear. We're gonna cook it for about 1 minute to 2 minutes on each side. Now, while this is cooking, I'm gonna tell you a little story. Before the partition of 1947, the main diet of Delhi was a vegetarian because the majority of the population was Hindu. With the arrival of new people and influences, the Peshawar cuisine introduced chicken dishes, including butter chicken. By 1950s, Delhi had become the center of cooking and innovation in India. So, just FYI, chicken rules the world. That's why I love chicken. All right, so it's been about 60 seconds. You should get some browning. We're gonna flip it. Now, super important, the turmeric, the amazing spice in this, will stain your clothes if you're wearing white. I don't know if we talked about this. So if you are wearing white or any other color that's bright, you will get a yellow tinge if you get the spice on it or the marinade on yourself. So be very careful. Wear an apron, preferably something dark, so when you wash it, it doesn't stain. All right, understand also this, guys. We're not gonna cook this through, so don't stress. We're gonna go 1 minute, and take it out and put it on the pan. So the sweetness you're probably smelling is Garam Masala. Now, funny thing about Garam Masala, Garam Masala is a mixture of different spices, and every country in India has their own recipe for Garam Masala. So for this one we have is actually mostly cinnamon. So you might actually go to a different city and buy a different, ground masala, and it'll be completely different. It could be mostly chili powder. So just know that like, if you go to the store and you buy some ground masala, it might not taste like a different ground masala. So find out what ground masala you really love. Quick side note. So you're gonna see this fond on the bottom, all right, from each batch. Do not throw away this. This is all flavor, all right? This is the last piece of chicken. We're gonna sear this up real quick. So once you get your 2 batches going, you're gonna see this marinade you have left over. We do not throw this out. Do not waste this marinade. Keep it to the side. Oh, this smells so good. All right, so all your chicken been seared, both sides. You got your fond down in. Next, we're gonna add in our butter, a whole stick of butter, a 1/4 cup of butter. Throw it in there. Because again, this is butter chicken. So right now, with our butter being melted, we're gonna add in our garlic, chilies, and ginger together. Now, this is super important because we wanna toast up the garlic a little bit, but we're also infusing that chilies into our oil, which is gonna, get that flavor throughout the entire dish. So super important. So we're gonna toast it for about 30 seconds. We're still on medium to medium high heat. If you start seeing it burning, turn down your heat, take your pot off and start turning down your heat. And we're gonna start kind of taking off that fond on the bottom. Use that spatula or a tongs to get that fond off that bottom. All that flavor town. All right, so onion time. So we're gonna take our onions. Beautiful. We're gonna take our tomatoes. Beautiful. And we're gonna take some of our lemon and throw it in. Oh yeah. Now it's looking good. So this is gonna be kind of our base for our sauce. It's kind of like the Indian mirepoix. All right, so we're gonna cook this for about, I would say, a minute, maybe 2 minutes until it kind of gets nice and soft. Next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna take a tablespoon of salt and we're gonna season our onions and tomatoes. That salt is gonna help release some of that water, and that's what we need for the curry sauce. You can see the water is coming out, it's getting nice and soft and translucent. This is a good time right here, we're about 2 minutes in. We're gonna start adding in our tomato paste. Now, tomato paste in a tube is the greatest invention in the world. I fully support this tomato paste in a tube. So if you can, get tomato paste in a tube because it saves you a lot of money from having to waste those little cans of tomato paste that you only use half of it or a spoonful of it. So we're gonna do about a tablespoon of tomato paste into our dish. All right, so we're gonna cook our tomato paste for about 30 seconds because if we don't, we're gonna have that little bit of bitterness that comes with tomato paste. So give it a good cooking for about 30 seconds. Oh yeah, it's looking good. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add in our chicken. Oh, this is looking good, y'all. All right, and next thing we're gonna do is add in our spices that we toasted in the beginning. Beautiful. And then we fold it all in. Make it one happy situation. Next thing we're gonna do, you remember the leftover marinade? It's time to add that bad boy back in. So, marinade going in. All right, so marinade is in. Oh, it's looking amazing. All right, so next thing we're gonna be adding in is going to be our chicken stock. Just enough to kind of cover a little liquid on everything. All right, you can see our pan is bubbling. Oh, this is looking good. All right, so we're gonna bring this down to a simmer. So a 1 or 2 on your stove, and we're gonna cover it. Naan time. All right, so right now I have a plancha that is being preheated. You guys should have an oven that's being preheated or a frying pan that should be preheated on like medium heat. So if you don't have your frying pan on, get your frying pan on medium heat. So we're gonna be rolling out our naan. So with this recipe, we're gonna need a way to split things up evenly. So I like to use a bench scraper. If you have a knife, that totally works. Or you can just, eyeball it by like ripping off pieces. That usually works too. So what we're gonna do for our naan, we're gonna take it out. Now you can kind of see when we first had it, it's actually almost like doubled in size, and that should be where you guys are gonna be looking at. So it's gonna be also really soft. Kind of see it's like really soft and pliable. It's rested really well. All right, so we're gonna put this to the side. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna do 2 kneads, and I'm gonna show you what I mean by 2 kneads, so watch. So the first one is going to be fold in half and press, fold in half and press. All right, super simple, easy deasy. What I'm gonna do is turn it into a kind of a square. So form it into a square, pat it out, and we're gonna turn this into 8 pieces, all right? So, I'm gonna cut this one in half, all right? We're gonna cut this one in half, and we're gonna cut this one in half. So we have 1, 2, it doesn't have to be even. We're just trying to get it in rough sizes, all right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. I know how to count. We're gonna give a little sprinkling on our countertop of flour, a little sprinkling on top. We'll take our little naan pieces. All right, so what we're gonna do is very simply roll it, turn it, roll it. Now if it starts sticking, a little bit more flour. Now if you don't have a rolling pin, you can use a wine bottle. You can also use a canned foods bottle or can of food. That usually works, a really big one. Or you can really just press it out, just with your hands. Either way works. But what we're going for is, we're going for about, I would say, 1/8 of an inch. So pretty thin, a lot thinner than you think it would be. Because remember, this is going to rise. All right, so we have our preheated pan. We're literally gonna throw this right on top. If you're going to do this on in an oven, we're gonna get your sheet pan, maybe throw a little bit of oil or nonstick spray, put it on a sheet pan, throw it into the oven. Some people also might have pizza planks in there. You can throw it right onto there and bake. We're gonna cook it for 1 minute per side, flip it, add a little butter, flip it, add a little butter, and then it should be done by turn 3 or 4. We're looking for a nice browning, so go for about a minute. All right, so it's been about a minute. We're gonna get our turner and we're gonna flip it. There we go. So we have our garlic butter that we have right here. Forgot to add my garlic to my butter. It's all good. We're gonna take a spoon, mix up our garlic butter. Beautiful. We're gonna spoon a little bit of garlic butter right onto our naan. Beautiful. All right, so we're gonna keep going. So add in the next one, flip our second one. Whew. There we go. All right, we're gonna flip our first one. Oh yeah, add another butter. And we're just gonna keep the rotation going. Oh, smelling good. All right, so first one. Oh, look at that. Take your plate. First one done. Flip the second one. Add some butter. Flip third one. Add some butter. Just keep the cycle going. So we're gonna do a quick check on our chicken. Oh, all right. So, as you can see, our chicken is looking great. Chicken should be almost finished. Our sauce is thickened up a little bit, so this is great. So I'm actually gonna let this kind of simmer a little bit with the lid off because I want to kind of thicken up a little bit. So we're about another, I would say, 8 more minutes of simmering. But what I'm gonna do is we're gonna add in our cream when it's just about done. And let it simmer with the cream. All right, so our naan is complete. Our butter chicken is pretty darn complete. We're gonna do a quick taste. Because we added the cream in there, we're gonna make sure that we also taste it for salt. So, tasting spoon, engaged. Oh, that's pretty good. It's not spicy. Okay, it's not that spicy. So, one thing we can also do for the spicy mamas and daddies in this place, you can actually add in some chili powder into this at this time. You can also add in a little bit of cayenne if you want, or add more jalapenos or serranos. My first time ever eating Indian food with an Indian person. Her name is Vanilla. I love her to death. She actually taught me a lot about Indian food. And her thing was, she's like, whenever I cook for friends, I always make two meals. One for Indian people and one for everybody who is not. Because she's like, every time we say, oh, I want to cook for everybody, they're like, oh, I want to try your spice level. I swear to God, between 1 to 10, it's like a 50. It doesn't make sense how they could eat it. And like, they would do it for breakfast, the same spicy level for breakfast. I'm like, what is this? So spice level is all up to everybody. So the last thing we're gonna talk about is, in your recipe, we talked a little bit about the almonds. Now, what I did was take some almonds, smash it up with a rolling pin, and we got this ground almonds. This is a way for us to thicken our actual curry. So we're gonna throw that right in there. All right. Now, this is super important when we're doing this. We want to get to the right texture. So we're gonna use some ground almonds. Now, if you don't like almonds or you're allergic, you can also use cornstarch slurry. So it's 50% cornstarch, 50% water. So we'll probably for this recipe, we'll do 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, 1 tablespoon of water, mix them up, add them in there, and we can get it extra thick. All right, so we are ready to start plating. So we're gonna get our bowls. Beautiful. We're gonna use our regular metal spoon, not a big deal. All right, so we're gonna bowl it up. Beautiful. All right, I wanna get our cutting board real quick because I wanna cut this up so it looks pretty. So one of the things we like to eat with is with our eyes. So of course we're gonna try to dress this up a little bit. We're gonna make our little squares and kind of just decorate the edge of the bowl. Beautiful, love it. We have our garnish, the cilantro. All right, so come on up. Yep, this one's for you. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, and the next one, of course, is for me. Just kidding. Make it look pretty. Get it ready for Instagram because we want to see these pictures on Instagram. Make sure you're tagging at Feed the Mass on these. And this is our butter chicken. You ready, Chloe?
Yeah.
She's taking pictures of it right now.
Picture for the gram.
Picture for the gram. All right. So toast, we got our naan, we got our butter chicken. Here we go. Bon appetit. How bad?
That's good.
It's good? Okay. We started the Fed program and the Ambassador program solely because of this pandemic. When our city shut down in March last year, we realized very quickly that people needed access to food in a different way. We started preparing and giving away meals every day, and soon after, numbers grew to well over 1,000 meals a day, often 7 days a week. This week alone, Feed the Mass prepared and served and delivered 5,432 meals and rescued 3,719 pounds of food for future meals. We know firsthand the power of community. I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. Thank you, Chloe, for managing all our questions, comments, and the teasing. Anything else you'd like to add before we close?
Yes, so our partnership volunteers and our ambassador program are in great need of drivers. So if you're interested, we deliver Monday, Wednesday, and Friday between the hours of 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock. So if you want to volunteer, you can go to feedthemass.org/volunteer and fill out our intake form, and our volunteer coordinator and I will get in touch with you soon.
Perfect. Thank you, Fed Program volunteers, for all the work you're doing this week and for the community. I love you guys. For only $25 a month, you can help us make 50 meals a month for the community. Food insecurity is not just in our streets, it is in our homes all across the Portland area, and we need your help to stop it. Become a member by going again to feedthemass.org/donate. If you enjoyed being a part of our class tonight, want to help people learn how to cook and eat, you can purchase a buy one, give one ticket for your next class. 6 people tonight who are joining us purchased a BOGO ticket in support of our families accessing our classes. And we want to thank you guys so much for doing that. You can support us on our website at feedthemass.org/classes. Please remember to like, share, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and now subscribe to us on YouTube, especially with all these videos that we're going to be doing. Check it out. And again, if you want to learn more information about the Fed program, Ambassador program, or Coach Your Cooking classes, go to our website, feedthemass.org, or go to our Instagram because we actually are going to be doing a lot of stuff on there. Go to our Instagram at feedthemass. This is Chef Jacobson. Here's to cooking with ease and happiness. Hope to see you again next month when we go to Japan to make ramen. Good night.